Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Hyperdimension Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters. Once more, I am more than aware of the fact that this game does not actually have the Hyperdimension moniker. However, given that in Japan this game does have the Chojiken Game moniker, that would mean that it is part of the main series. At this point, we are on track to get the bad ending. The bad ending is an ending that I think was rushed, but overall it was really good for what it was trying to do. It did have that sense, that tone, that something was wrong, but unlike previous bad endings, such as the bad ending of V2 or also Mark II, it wasn't overtly wrong. It was more along the lines of something was not solved. And here we have them, I believe they're working on Time Machine, although it has been a while since I actually went through this moment. It might be that they're just trying to think of a way to reach the other Maho so that they could free her from the clutches of R4. That is one thing I like about this. I like that they decided to take R4 seriously as a villain. One of my biggest issues with the writing of V2 and V, as in Victory, has to do with the fact that their tone was all over the place. Victory was a sunshine and rainbows plot and then occasionally got super dark. In the case of V2, it was dark, but the characters, such as Neptune, were not taking the event seriously. When I played through Mark II, for example, and I finally got a capture card, so I will be doing the original Neptunia and the original Mark II, because I genuinely don't like their remakes, I noticed that the characters constantly saw themselves in a situation that was dire, so they did everything that they could to succeed in spite of their dire situation. And here we have one of the better moments in this game, and that would be when Nepgear goes around through Planeptune and starts talking to all the people she knew. And the reason I like this moment is because it gives us an insight onto who the characters are, while also allowing us to look around Planeptune. If Game Maker Revolution is the sequel to this game, I really hope it's canon, then the good news will be that we may have more to explore, because I know we're going to get racing, motorcycle racing minigame, and I am looking forward to it. I really am. I think it's going to be super fun. Although, interestingly enough, by the time I start recording Game Maker Revolution, assuming it comes out this year in the United States, this series will already be done. And by that, I mean, remember, I upload months ahead of schedule. This is July? I mean, not even July. It is currently June. And yet, I start a lot of the series recordings. They're going to be up in December. And whether or not that schedule is a good idea, it does allow me to take breaks because YouTube is not my job. It is a hobby. At the same time, if I make a mistake, I'm less likely to catch it. So there is a positive and a negative. Around that point, what you just saw me do was attempting to obtain money because I wanted to purchase the ultimate Nepgear weapon. However, I had insufficient funds. Therefore, I was not able to go all in on it. Now, here we have the Blonde and Uni section of the Planeptune walking. And one thing that I do like about it is that it shows leadership skills that Nepgear wishes she could have. Don't get me wrong, Nepgear as a leader in the context of the series is good, but she does not match the experience that Noir has. And then here we have one of the greatest moments, and it proves that Neptune herself is a leader. One thing that I don't like that the spin-offs did with Neptune, for example, Super Neptunia RPG, was they made her an idiot. Super Neptunia RPG genuinely has Neptune as an idiot, with the famous, "Wait a minute guys, you can read" line? Yeah, that was stupid. I found it funny because it was a spin-off, but if it was main series, I would have been concerned. Because yes, Neptune's penmanship is illegible, but she can read. And Neptune puts on an act, if you pay attention. Neptune is one of the smarter characters in this series. As a matter of fact, I'd willingly say that of the 4 main goddesses, she is the best one. However, she puts on an act so that all of them can remain friends. I believe that if Neptune wanted to, she could put an end to the rivalry of all the CPUs. And likely she could do it without issue. And here, they're going to be leaving off to go to the game industry graveyard, I believe. And a huge complaint with the game industry graveyard that I have is that it is a stupidly long dungeon. Okay? This is a dungeon that I genuinely cannot defend. It requires so much just to get through it. And I will speed it up at times 8, skipping all non-plot relevant battles. And you will see that it will take us multiple minutes to get through it. I am probably going to do Neptunia Tower at a later time, don't expect it in this Let's Play, but if there's ever a time that I want to do it, I'll probably live stream it or I'll record episodes of it. I still need to think about that. And now we have Neptune acting somewhat out of character, but it makes sense. At this point, Neptune is confident, okay? I think Neptune knows that if something went wrong, Nepgear could take over, and nothing bad would happen. And I believe it's not currently being sped up because I'm trying to show something off. But it has been a few days since I've recorded it. It could just be a minor mistake. Or better yet, we get out of this menu, and then likely it'll just speed up again. What am I trying to do? There I am. Good. I was trying to get the leader in order because of how I have the formation. And then here I am trying to set up the characters so that they are as capable as can be. Uni, then set Nepgear up with Neptune, and then Rom will be set up with, yeah, Blonde. Okay, now that this setup is obtained, let's see some speed ups, guys. I do speed it up, right? Maybe oh right, I didn't speed it up yet because I wanted you to read the top left. And it is kind of weird that they joked about the events of Mark II. The whole, we just kind of play tag. I have a question. They were tied up. How were they playing tag? Okay, serious question about that. It doesn't make sense. They could have just said that they were bored out of their mind and that they were in pain, and that would have been great. Not for what happened to them, but rather it would have shown that the events still were canon. Yeah, they did wait there for 3 years, that is true. What did you do that whole time? Play tag, Vert, you freaking idiot. Now, that might still be up for debate, given that Neptune says just kidding. I believe she says just kidding. And you'd be surprised that Noir actually buys into this joke, assuming it is a joke. If it's not a joke, then that is mildly concerning. What the hell was I doing there? Yeah, okay, so it was Vert who said just kidding. But I'm trying to remember what exactly happened. Okay, now that the talking is over, let's see the speed up. Look at this speed up, boys. It is so arduous of a journey that I had to speed it up. And I am actively avoiding wild encounters simply because I don't feel like doing it. And what I just did there was notice that I complained in the previous part about the difficulty. I removed the equipment from the characters until I was down to the starting equipment, the level 1 equipment. I got rid of customization because I decided to prove that this game is so easy that you don't need any add-ons. You could beat the game with just the default equipment and you would be just fine.
Believe in yourself and do your best.
See, that is the sword you get at the beginning of the game, and I did the exact same thing for Rom and Ram. What I did not do was keep the same moveset because that would be boring. I could probably do it, and it would probably be a fun challenge, but for the sake of you, the audience, I did not do it. At this point, I started experimenting with changing the character moveset, and I realized something. Having more moves is better in the long run, not for you the player, It's better so that your computer partners are able to utilize them, because similar to how in Halo you give the Marines a sniper rifle or a rocket launcher, they have much better use and aim and likely tactics than you the player do. So by putting a lot of moves on your characters, something that admittedly I did fail to do for a long time in the series, you enable yourself to have a very strong boss fight team. Because I did prepare the teams, specifically ROM, RAM, and Nepgear, for boss fights. The typical wild encounter was easy enough that I didn't really need to prepare. I just looked into how do I best beat boss fights that I've beaten so far, have that moveset, and then keep going. Likely, I won't be making a walkthrough of this game, but I might make a review, given the fact that this game was actually really fun. The F2P rematch, I think, is easier, but not because the fight has less to deal with. It's easier to me because I've already done it, and I'm a higher level than I was during the first F2P fight. The amount of skipping that I decided not to do was probably a hindrance in terms of the length of this series. Thinking back, this series most likely could have been 12 parts. One for each chapter, because each chapter is not that long. However, for some reason, I decided to do it live. And I understand why. It's because if you look at how I've recorded series before, I would just sit down in front of my computer and record live, just talking into the microphone as I'm playing. The problem is that it makes it really hard to talk about what I think about the game, and it forces me to just speak abstract nonsense for large periods of time. There's a reason that I acted mildly unhinged during the Pokemon Fire Red Nuzlocke, because I was running out of things to say. Here, on the other hand, because I've already played it, because I already know what's going to happen, I have access to those memories of the event, and it allows me to talk more about it without the focus of having to play something else. It also fixes the audio quality because you no longer hear the clicking of buttons, especially with my clicky controller. Most people don't like a clicky controller. I think a lot of people like it when it's tactile, but personally, I grew up with a GameCube, and because of that, the controllers that I really like have a lot of clickiness to them. Even when I got the Xbox controller that I used to play and record Neptunia, I noticed that it was honestly easier with the clickier controller because it gave me feedback. I also want to give some advice. In this game, the default setting is LT plus RT to activate the EXE drive. If you ask me, that is a terrible system. What it should be is the B button. The B button is more effective, it is much more reliable, and by far, it leads to less moments where I'm just spamming the shield on accident. Throughout the entire series, you could probably have caught me doing that. But at this point in time, I stopped doing that. Instead, I opted to simplify the process, and I realized that it made the game way easier, and it makes me also realize that I could have had this setting a long time ago, and yet somehow did not. It is my fault. I'm not going to blame the game for that. This is a PC game. I should be accustomed to customizing the controller. And yet, I didn't do it. That's my fault. And moving on to the story of this game, why did R4 allow Maho to talk? Why not do what they did in The Quiet Place? I think it's called The Quiet Place. No, it's not. It's called Get Out. And just leave her in some sort of sunken state. That would have worked really well. And for those of you out there that are getting the uncensored patch getting ready, let me know when it's ready, and I might do a New Game Plus run.
What do I do?
How do I recover these shares?
Recover the shares.
So, the game itself doesn't actually tell you what time is going on in reference to the other games, I put those there manually for the sake of you, the audience, so that you have an even better time grasping when these events took place. Because if there's one thing this game did, is it made Mark II a more important game in the timeline. Although it did retcon a few things by having Maho exist prior to the events of Mark II, and even during Mark II Victory and V2, she was just out doing something else. Which is kind of funny given that means that during the invasion of Ray Rights, Maho just kind of said, you know what, I'm gonna go work on the IS crystal. And I'm gonna get all of this approved by my sister's secretary. Just basic events such as those really do add in weight to this story. As much as I think this story is good, I still don't like Maho. I just cannot defend this character. Now, my other take that I would take Abnus and Trick at this point was also out there. But believe me, I have my reasons. Albeit other people have told me, you're crazy. I am not crazy. I just know what kind of characters I want to see on screen. The fact of the matter is, Maho is the final boss. For the bad ending, it's just R4. Because, why is it not R4? Well, R4 is the deity of sin, they're gonna make her the bad guy. For the normal and good endings, you fight Maho. The normal ending ends with the fight against Gray's sister Maho, who was being controlled by R4. Meanwhile, the true ending ends with the fight against Maho herself, not being controlled by anyone. And it's not even the Maho that we follow. The final boss is pre-SVS Maho, so a Maho that doesn't even know what happened. So there is emotion to it, but at the same time, it's not the emotion that I want to see on the level of saying we fought the disappeared Maho from the future. Yeah, spoiler alerts, Maho gets annihilated.
These are separate issues.
Only in the true ending, it's for real.
Now, but this is going to impact the
Separate issues, shares may be high priority now, but it's going to impact the entire future of PC continent. Right.
I was just trying to act as a goddess.
At this point, Maho really wants to prove herself that she is doing her best for the PC continent, and she is. But even here, the political groups are effectively saying, look, you're not her. And you probably will never be her. So instead, you need to just be a replacement until she wakes up. Now, normally, somebody would say, oh my goodness, I feel bad for her. No. There is no need to feel bad for her. She is still in political power. She is still one who has the options. Yes, she has to live under restrictions. But these restrictions are due to her birthright. She was born to help the goddess rule over the people. The people need a leader. Without a leader, you create anarchy. And anarchy will then devolve into social Darwinism. Ironic. Therefore, I genuinely don't blame Maho. Now, the fact that she was tricked by ASIC into creating the IS crystal was bad. At the same time, I understand this because she is the internally online girl. That's why she is a trendy cell phone loving girl, because that is her only method of communicating with the outside. I noticed that there was a problem that happened in real life during the government lockdowns of 2020, where a lot of people became addicted to the internet and talking to other people. That is something that genuinely was sad to see in real time with people that I knew. Seeing people go from confident outdoors types into these shriveled up, pale-skinned, overweight, anxiety-ridden teenagers, and in even some cases adults, well, it did hurt. It hurt seeing that happen to them. And I genuinely feel bad that it happened to them. I don't know what could have been done differently, outside of not having the lockdown, but the government was so hell-bent on having the lockdown that they did it anyways, so luckily, that could not have changed. A lot of people actually did disrespect it, but enough people respected it that it affected learning and basic social interaction for years to come. I think Aiden Paladin said it, that the IQ has gone down by 30. That's crazy. By 30? That is a level that I have not even seen, nor could I have fathomed before. A lot of people don't actually believe in IQ tests, and that's perfectly fine. IQ is not a guaranteed metric. It is a pattern recognition test. But at the same time, the ability to recognize patterns makes utilizing this ability even more effective. Oh, we're finally at the final boss. Okay. It has been some time since I've been in this form. That is true. Technically speaking, from Nepgear's perspective, the last time she saw this form was during the good ending of Mark II. Meanwhile, here, why is she level 69? She could be higher level than this. We are in the late 70s, early 80s. And yet, she's level 69 as a final boss. I get that this is the bad ending. And in the bad ending, it's going to be treated a bit differently. They want this character to be seen as this overpowered individual. And assuming that we're just looking at the bad ending for the sake of looking at the bad ending, it does make sense. Why? Because the bad ending is for people who rush through the game. However, I don't think that's true. I do not believe that you can get the bad ending unintentionally without grinding with your phone and intentionally liking bad likes, which would thereby make the attempt intentional. And what I'm saying is, the bad ending existed historically for players that did not actually truly care about the game and just wanted to rush through it. The good ending, the normal ending, existed for people that paid attention, and the true ending was for people who really looked deep into the story and wanted to figure out exactly what went on. That is the purpose of each ending. Meanwhile, here, the normal ending is pretty much reserved for people who did everything right. The only way to get the true ending is to mess around with chirper and disk development. I don't think that's how you should do it. I get the idea. They want cell phones and handhelds to be on equal playing fields, and the intention was good. However, that's just not how I think the progression should go. In fact, I even went as far as to call this an impractical system to a degree that I could not have understood at the time. And here I am just pretty much pointing out how pathetically easy this game. Why can we stun the final boss? I know she's not technically the final boss, but for those who played the bad ending... Oh, here it is, right here, right here. If you notice, I was trying to activate the EXE drive, but instead it kept opening the shortcut menu or the shield menu, and that prevented me from actually using the technique. So after this boss, starting with the normal ending, I believe I switched it to the B button because I was getting tired and frustrated of having my EXE drive constantly fail. I don't think that was intentional by the developers. I think that just went down the way it did due to my own error in being able to press the button simultaneously. If I was able to do that, most likely I would not have switched the control to B. If you can do it, you don't need to do it. However, I will recommend that you do it because it makes things simpler and easier. See, looking at this combat system, once again, I'm still convinced that this game could have a multiplayer. Make it a 3-on-3 battle, kind of like a Sonic Heroes or Shadow the Hedgehog's gun mode if you want to do 1-on-1. And give us the combos, give us the attack gauge, all of that, I think it would work. And with everyone's HP being the way it is, everyone having good stats, I think it would have made Neptunia a really fun multiplayer, even if the multiplayer wasn't great. And here we stand at almost full health, the final boss at almost death, and I know it looks like I'm going super tryhard. I'm really not. In fact, this was recording super late at night. I'm probably half asleep when I recorded this, so there is no real difficulty for this final section. If you recall back to the first episode, where I dropped to 1 HP, that told me that this game had difficulty. This was not difficulty. Having us fight the Mecha Dolls was a great way to show us that the game was hard. So at the end of the game, they send multiple Mecha Dolls after you. However, by that point, you have all the moveset to counter the Mecha Dolls, and that's good design, but then the Mecha Dolls should have had a boost in difficulty. But instead, I'm convinced that their programming remained exactly the same, and because of that, the difficulty suffered. Why do I keep complaining about the difficulty? Well, it's because of my only real complaint on the game. Other than the character of Maho and the difficulty of the game, I think this game is great, and I recommend it to people. I genuinely think that even if you're not a Neptunia fan, you can have a great time. You don't need to watch the cutscenes. They're great for the fans of Neptunia, but if you don't care about the story and just want a fun game to play, this is also it. Although I do recommend you do watch the cutscenes because they're good cutscenes. Now, I might be more inclined to call these sound novel scenes, because calling it a cutscene would involve actual cuts from gameplay to story cinematic, and then returning to gameplay, and it would usually be either in-engine or pre-rendered. And here is just a text box cutscene. You know, I'm convinced you could put this game on the 3DS. You would have to downscale the graphics, but you could probably put this on 3DS. Where's the lie? I don't think there is a lie. And what about switching characters? Just use the left and right left and right D-pad inputs. That would be your only change. Keep everything the same, you could put this game on a 3DS. Now, you might have to lower the graphics because the 3DS is about as strong as the GameCube. And this game probably could run at a very laggy 30 FPS on Switch. But if you downscaled it, you could probably get this on a 3DS. I'm actually convinced you could. And now we're talking with more of the space-time jargon, the space-time mumbo-jumbo. That, look, you can do a time travel story and it would probably be good, but you gotta do it right. And I say you gotta do it right, and by that I mean you need to establish some hard rules, and then stick to it. What too many time travel stories do is they make it up as they go along, and then they decide rules. Go for it. You're going to struggle. You might be able to do it, but you will struggle. And here, we actually have some emotion from Nepgear. However, Maho's right. This is probably the only way they could defeat Adafor. And this is how they defeat Adafor. Although, when I looked at this, the idea that Maho just becomes Halo 5's Cortana did not really sit well with me. I think that if anyone was going to do this, it was going to be Vert. You know, and in Vert's case, she would have done all of this just to get some freaking sisters on her. But no, they gave this to Maho. And even then, the Halo 5 Cortana plot is not very good. Okay, I know that some of you who have never played Halo don't know what I'm talking about. In Halo 5, Guardians, Cortana comes back even though she died in Halo 4, supposedly. And she's on Meridian, so the Master Chief has to go after her. While she was in the Forerunners are the precursors to pretty much everyone else, not to be confused with the actual precursors, who were the creators of everything in the Halo universe. I'm using precursor in a dictionary sense, not the literal sense as it is in that series. They were the ones who created some technology. Cortana, a human AI, ended up getting inside the technology and becoming corrupt with power. This does sound familiar, as it is also one of the potential plot points of the Cortana letters from 1999. But Miguel, Halo 1 came out in 01. What do you mean 99? Well, the Cortana letters were some marketing campaign during the Marathon era when Bungie was all in on it. But you know what? I'm getting off topic. Essentially, Cortana wanted all the power so that she could put an end to conflict.
This is no fun.
Have her be the supreme ruler of the galaxy. Her plan was, in a sense, to disarm everyone and make everyone do as she says. That was her plan. And by goodness, Maho did the exact same thing. It wasn't liked when Cortana did it. And I'm going to bet it wasn't liked when this happened. Note, I don't actually speak to other creators about this kind of thing. I don't know what anyone else's thoughts is. And hell, at the time of this recording, Senpai Blade just uploaded maybe a few minutes ago the Noir, how could you? How she neglected uni. So yeah, by the time I record this, so way before this is uploaded, that guy is still in, I think, chapter 3? Well, no, he already did the Anita job fight. Either way, he's not very far in. To give an equivalent, his distance into the series is my distance at part... Let's see here. Monday references. Just letting you drop. My part... What part is this? Part 10, I believe? So, about 1/6 behind. Either way, what I'm trying to say is that even if I wanted to talk to people, and he is significantly bigger creator than me, they're not there. Nep Queen is still stuck in Rebirth 2. I think she's still in Rebirth 2. I don't think she's made it to Rebirth 3 yet. But that's besides the point. And even then, I probably wouldn't talk to them. They have a much bigger following than I do at the time of recording. And most likely I would talk to my friend group. But my friend group doesn't really play Neptunia. Except David, and even then, David plays Neptunia because I got him into it, not for anything else. I don't actually know a lot of people in real life who are into this series. In fact, trying to get people into the series is something that I've always wanted to do. But I can't force people to pick up, buy, and purchase something. That is their prerogative, not mine. And here we have the big bad ending. The one that really showed that Maho needed to be stopped. I actually do like the voice acting during this scene as well. I genuinely think that it starts off happy, but then once she untransforms, she starts getting creepy.
Oh, thank goodness.
Nepgear seems relieved here.
So glad you're safe.
However,
So you managed
as
to get away
it
from the
continues
terror?
on, she becomes progressively more and more worried.
The other
And to even further drive home the parallels to Halo 5, Cortana put Master Chief and Blue Team in a cryptum to keep them sealed away
It's from Henri.
until she completed her goal. Meanwhile, here we have Maho keeping all of the goddesses except Nepgear asleep until she can achieve her goal. She'll keep Nepgear awake because she wants to play with Nepgear. However, Nepgear's power is so low due to a lack of shares that even if Nepgear wanted to rebel, it would be impossible. Especially now that the smartphone goddess candidate has an internet service provider, the IS Crystal.
But Maho, don't hang up on her like that.
What is Nepgear going to do? Nothing. At this point, if you really think about it, the bad ending is the end to Neptunia.
I'm absorbing
Every single historical handheld console gets defeated by all the modern day technology.
So that it won't take your
And you could probably say that's happening, especially due to
What are
emulation.
you saying?
Not counting some very few individuals. How many people do you know are hunting down old school copies of games just to record and play them for YouTube.com? I'm convinced that more people are hunting down an emulator.
Play with you, Gearsy.
And I don't really have anything against emulation in that sense.
Can enjoy our days.
Especially if the game is so old that legally purchasing it would not benefit the company in any way.
To do that, our
But at the same time, it does sort of put some sort of end to
why
the handheld consoles. In fact, I have my 3DS right here with Plants vs. Zombies plugged in.
into a world without
That's not a really good example, but what's stopping me from just getting the PC version or pirating it? Nothing. Okay, the internet service is the end-all be-all.
You say the
Now, a lot of internet services based in the US mess you up by preventing you from obtaining ROMs and the such.
our way of thinking
especially from a pirated site.
We're still the same Maho
However, you
that
can get around that
everyone
with a
else
foreign site, or yeah, with just a foreign
okay.
ISP.
There's nothing to worry about.
I'm not
Katie.
condoning
As
privacy,
long as
okay?
I
I'm
have
not.
the IS crystal,
But what I am saying is that it's more than possible to do it, especially in this current age of the internet.
have gone on an incredible journey
And now we have Maho trying to calm down Nepgear. But Nepgear over here is not having it. She is absolutely not having it. That is the end of this part. I liked it a lot. Oh my god. I didn't know she was coming today. Okay. Have a nice day.